Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon from Shannon's Studio, and I'm here to talk creativity with you, to give you some ideas, to inspire you, to maybe change a few of your thought patterns so that then you are in a better position to make that beautiful art you want to make. Or not just art, but a creative life. So I think sometimes we get stuck on making the art, and yes, I think you should be creative somehow that's tangible, but also there's creative ideas that come about in talking with people and doing things in intangible ways. So it's just a way to emphasize how to live creatively. So let's see. Today we were back at it after vacation. That is always hard. Can I just say, getting back into the routine after you've just, had like a free-for-all week, which we did. So, because you stay up late, you just kind of go, you do the fast food every day, and then you have to come back and you have to cook and you have to go to bed on time and that sort of thing. And so, we had our little transition today, and I'm sure it'll be a little bit more of a transition tomorrow too. But we're going to talk about a question one of my sons had. He works in graphic design, Wade, and he was just saying, how do you present ideas, creative ideas? Because he works in a creative environment, and you have to present creative ideas. And yes, that's a whole different way of looking at creativity. But I thought I would just talk about it, throw out my ideas, then we can have you throw out some ideas, and maybe be able to answer some of his questions, give him some ideas to use. First off, let's see. This presenting ideas can also be for work, but it can also be for like committees that you're on, for volunteer work. It can be how you pitch ideas to your family. It doesn't have to be just about work. I think some of these things can help you in whatever situation you have to pitch an idea in. So, so right off the bat, I'm just going to point out a few things that you're up against when you present an idea. First off, the mind is wired to emphasize negativity. And this happens all the time. All the time when you get an idea, what are the first things that people tick off? It's how it's not going to work. It's where our mind does that. It emphasizes negativity. It emphasizes the fear factor, because our minds are wired to protect us from taking risks that will present us into situations that cause us harm. And we don't have the same kind of fear factors like wild animals outside our door. So our minds have created other situations where it feels like it's that kind of a situation, fear, and so it reacts a certain way, and it tries to protect us from the new and different. And in pitching an idea, isn't that the new and different? So your stress levels, people's stress levels will go up. They will physically do things because they feel that stress. And if you have competition, like several of you are pitching an idea, then that adds a whole nother element into the mix. And then you have to manage all those same sorts of feelings within yourself. So you have this big mixed grab bag in just the idea of presenting or pitching something. And sometimes I don't think we think about that on some of the important things we want to pitch, or even some of the unimportant things. Maybe we do more of the important things, but not the unimportant things, or less important, not unimportant, but we don't realize about all those other things that come into play with our biology, with our physiology, those sorts of things. And here's a quote from Harvard Business Review. They had a whole article dedicated to creativity. And this is from Francisca Gino. She says, research finds that although people list creativity as a goal, they frequently reject creative ideas when actually presented with them. And I find that to be so true. Like people say they want change. No, they don't. We're not wired to want change all the time. Yeah, periodically. But we like stability. We like things being the same. And it just always cracks me up when I hear people, yeah, we like change. We want to change things. We like creativity. And then in reality, and the research proves that that's not really the case. So those are the kinds of obstacles you're looking to get over, that people say one thing and actually do another. So some thoughts on that. It went right to the idea of Megamind. Yes, I'm gonna quote Megamind. And it's, he's someplace in the movie, he has something what he's going to do, and he says something about how he's going to do it. I didn't watch it to remind myself, but we use this phrase all the time in our family, Alan and I, because it's just so funny. And he tells the people it's about presentation, and he yells, presentation. And it's so funny the way he does that, but it is so applicable here. Here's another quote that how to win friends and influence people. The truth has to be made vivid, interesting, dramatic. You have to use showmanship. The movies do it, television does it, and you will have to do it too if you want attention. You're going to have ideas. It's really about the presentation and the vision you have more than the idea. Because for one, the idea is likely to change as you go through the process of creating it. Things change, when you start out with the vision of the project, when you get into the how-tos, it changes. And so you can't be stuck on the idea itself without any flexibility. You have to be sold on the vision. And that's where the presentation comes in. And whose book was this? Told a story. Oh, I don't remember whose book this is. I'll have to look it up. But she was telling a story about her daughter had an ear infection and she needed an operation on her ears. And it was, it's a pediatric doctor. And they had 2 hours, when she went in, the daughter went in, she was feeling okay. But as time progressed in her 2-hour prep, she started to get more anxiety, a little bit more restless, and it started to, feel like this wasn't something she actually wanted to, go ahead and do. So what happened was at the end of the prep work, the nurses gathered around the child, the little girl, and got out these wands. And they told her, we're going to have a bubble parade. And they started to wheel her into the operating room amongst these bubbles going all around her. And all of a sudden, her feelings changed from anxiety to anticipating and having this experience. So it changed completely because they presented going to the operating room in a totally different way than what normally happens. And couldn't you just, I can just vividly see that, the bubbles going on, the delight on the face. I've seen Joseph run through bubbles and he loves it. I can just see how that vision of, we want the children to have a fairy tale experience and not just this dreaded experience. Hey, Wade, you just missed some of this. You're gonna have to go back and watch this because this is for you. So presentation is huge, and you're creating an experience, just like those nurses created an experience for this little girl. You're creating an experience when pitching your idea. I was just reading my note going, what? So in creating an experience too, you start to show that you really know your idea. So let's go over a few things. I loved the bubble parade idea, and she had, I'm sorry, I don't remember the book, but she had several ideas. I think it's Fascinate, if I'm not mistaken. I think the book is Fascinate. So you have to realize that having a great idea is not enough. It's not enough for all the various reasons I told you before. You have to do more. And one of the things is you have to remember, this is obvious, but you have to remember you're talking to people. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own emotions and our own, are they going to like this? Are they not going to like this? That we forget we're talking to actual people, talking to people who have feelings, and we sometimes forget they're even in the room. So you have to remember you're talking to people. Second is be 100% sincere. No, all I can say is BS, and that's not what I usually say, but that's what, you can't baloney it. You can't, yeah, BS was bologna and salami. So you have to be 100% sincere in what you're doing and believe it. You have to believe in what you are pitching. If you don't believe it, why should anybody else? That's the bottom line. If you can't believe it. So you have to believe it so much that you have a passion for it and that you have a vision for it. The vision is the huge thing, because creative people who aren't using their creativity, who have not developed creativity muscles or creative muscles, don't see what you see. And so you have to, it's your job to create the vision for them, to open their eyes, to show them what they're not seeing. It says, I think it's a Fascinate book still, says, when you communicate with passion, you make people feel like they can do more, be more, and become more. So and you know that, when people talk and they believe it, love it, see it, have seen it work, and can see what it can do, those people, even if you don't like their idea, you believe them. And you're not going to likely tear them apart, or you're not going to be torn apart, because people know they really believe in their idea. Maybe the idea doesn't suit the situation. Maybe the idea has other circumstances that you're not aware of, but the idea and the way you delivered it was not the problem. So have passion for your own idea. Another thing is I said spark their imagination, meet their needs. They have needs. A company, a family, your friends, your volunteer group, they have needs. How is this vision, how is this idea going to meet their needs? You're pitching to them. They have to, what they're going is through their card catalog in their head, and they're going, does it meet this? Oh, it meets this. Oh, it doesn't meet this. So, what are their needs? You have to make sure that when your presentation is presented, that you've taken into account what their needs are, how you're going to meet them, and how, and all those other things too. How you're going to make them feel important, how you're going to involve them if they want to be involved. There's lots of things that can go into this, but you have to meet some needs. And sometimes it's just important to know what the one need is. What's the most important need that you have, and then make sure that that one need is met. Let's see. Learn the body language. Learn the body language of presentation. Now, presentations, there's all kinds of books, not just a little 20-minute video. There are books on this. And so it would be wise to look at some of those books and to figure out the body language, because it's how you breathe. It's how, I remember reading this one book that talked about the Marilyn Monroe wet voice. And it's something about how when we start to get passionate about things, our saliva actually, we get wet in the mouth. I don't know how to say. We get wet in the mouth, and then it affects our voice. And so they talk about, different things and how attractive the wet voice is. And so it's just, there are all kinds of physical things to do when you're presenting. And we all have these like tick things we do. I do it. I have all kinds. And so if you really care about your presentation, you can work on those things. You can work on your body language. You can work on those kinds of things. There's some simple things that you can do as well for that. Just like pick three new things, and that'll improve your presentation. Practice the presentation. It is so interesting, and I don't mean practice like sit there word for word practice. When I say practice, I mean get somebody in the room and talk to them about your idea. Because when you start to have a conversation about the idea, it, one, solidifies it in your head. Two, if you let them tell them, if you don't understand something, interrupt me and ask me. Then you start to see where your mistakes are, where your weak spots are, or where the information you haven't given across yet. And so when I say practice the presentation, have a conversation with a few people separately by themselves. So then you can start to play with your ideas. For me, this is almost like the videos, is I'm presenting, having this conversation with you about ideas before, this is like kind of like, but before I put them into another form. And so I'm having a conversation, and when you reply in the comments, that's helping me to understand, like Rose said something about, I think we talked about traveling with kids, and she said that she gave the kids toys, but then she took them away. And I that's exactly what I did too, but in the video, I didn't say I take them away. So it shows when you have conversations, some of the bigger points that you miss when you talk to people. So practice. Also, don't be rushed. I have a bad habit of that. Like when I get excited about something, I start to rush. I've rushed through lots of videos because I'm loving the information and everything. But when you are doing this, and it's important, take a deep breath and relax. So don't be rushed. Get some rest. Some basic things that doesn't require these special skills. Going to bed a couple hours earlier before your presentation day doesn't require a whole lot of skill. It's not a skill thing. It's like get yourself in bed. Let's see. And this goes back to our first point. You're talking to people, so let them ask questions and share concerns and have a dialogue about the ideas, because you want this idea to be good. And the questions, people naturally have questions. We miss information when somebody tells us. Somebody will tell us something, and then you'll start to think about something, so then you miss the information. And so when somebody's asking something, it's not necessarily an attack. It's not, you didn't give the information. So you don't have to say, I already said that. That could put somebody else on the defense. Just answer their questions without Cassie just called, without attitude, without defense, without any ulterior motive, interior motive, just to simply answer questions. Let's see. I know there's a ton more that can be talked about with this topic. Use humor. Humor puts people in a different frame of mind. There are tons. Like I said, there's books about presentations. But I think that this gives you a good start. And Wade, this gives you a good start maybe to look at this and look how you do presentations and look at what you're up against. Because it is a big deal. It is a big deal to present ideas. And it takes practice. And you have to read your group. Sometimes when I'm doing ideas and stuff, I will get so excited and I can go on, but I have noticed that when I go on too long, it fatigues people and their eyes glass over. I mean, lucky for you, you can pause the video, come back, but when you're face to face with somebody, and that can go into part of the practice, people, I've seen it, will glaze over, they'll physically drain. You can see them just like, And it's so interesting. So I know then I've gone too far. So, but presenting, know you, what you're good at, what your strengths are. Did a video on, owning your strengths. Know your strengths, use your strengths, and make it a great presentation. So, I know you guys have ideas. I know you've made presentations before. Share your tips. Wade's looking for tips, so share your tips. And yeah, that's what we do here, share. So, in the meantime, remember you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it. And I will be back tomorrow. Bye.